Hello, y'all. So this is like the third time that I'm trying to do this video. I think it's working now. I don't know if I deleted the other one, but whatever. So this video is going to be mostly about like near-death experiences, okay? And kind of like trauma that we kind of go through, when we have something like that. But first I wanted to talk about some crystals, some stones that I've been attracted to, and maybe it'll resonate with you specifically. This is indigo gabbro, which what they call mystic merlinite. Okay, so like really interesting stone. I don't know if it's gonna do that, but it's like a really interesting stone. It talks about like, it has to do with like things. It talks about like psychic awakenings and things like that, and being more intuitive and things like that, and using your intuitive more or intuition more. And it talks about, it's called merlinite because it has to do with Merlin, like the wizard. And he would go in the woods and things like that, and hibernate and go away from people so he could go spiritually awake and things like that. But that has been calling to me lately, this specific stone, mystic merlinite, indigo gabbro. I don't know if y'all are into that. Also, I don't know, here go the malachite. Malachite is very interesting also. It has a lot of properties or whatever. I don't know if it's going to go good here. But this is a very interesting stone. It has a lot to do with like heart chakra and grounding because it's a green stone, but I feel like it also has a lot to do with, I think it's like mercurial, right? Or something like that. But this video is mostly about, near-death experiences and things like that. I have never necessarily spoken about, my specific story of having a near-death experience. That's why it's cool to talk, and have these, outlets now and things like that in order to speak about things that you've been through and things like that. So, me personally, it was not like anything that was specifically, like for example, in my situation, I had been, first of all, the reason why I wanted to make this video is because in finding things on YouTube, I found a lot of like solace and like, connection with people that have been through things, similar to me and things like that. So that's why I felt like I needed to post or like at least make a video on, something similar that I have been through, near death experience, things like that. And I feel like that's when spiritual awakening kind of thing happens to people. First of all, it's really early in the morning right now. Everybody, my people are asleep. So I have to like be at, I can't like talk too loud and things like that. But I definitely feel like, specific things that go on with us, once we've been through trauma or any kind of like, impact directly toward like spinal area, cerebral area, nervous system. I feel like that has a lot to do with what goes on with us, spiritually, or like how we are perceptive and how we see reality and things like that. So what I'm trying to say here, and I'm gonna try to keep this short, but I'd be rambling and things, but what I'm trying to say here is in my specific experience with having a near-death experience, like it's super weird, right? Like I did not fully awake when it happened. It took some time for me to be like, okay, this happened to me. I might have to research about this, right? I might have to get a little bit of clarity and knowledge on the drug that they put me on and things like that. So I'm not gonna get into my whole personal business, but I'll say that like I had to be intubated, right? So that means that they had to put me in a medically induced coma. So I didn't arrive at the hospital in a coma. I arrived at the hospital and they had to put me in a coma because I was, you know, on the brink of death and things like that. When you arrive at the hospital in a coma, they have to figure out why you are in a coma and how, if you're going to wake up and things like that. With my specific story, I was losing oxygen in the brain. So they had to, put the tube down my throat and breathe for me and things like that. It was, it was traumatic and things like that. So it was a traumatizing thing, and it's like a near death experience and things like that. So I definitely feel like when we as a human species go through something like that, we, it kind of like jolts us and it kind of like wakes us up in a sense that we are different, or we perceive reality different. We see things differently and things like that. I definitely feel like, those stories where people are like, you know, a certain way, and then they go through a traumatic experience, and then they wake up from that traumatic experience. Let's say they're in a coma, and they wake up from that coma, and they can like speak a whole nother language, or they can like, play a whole instrument that they had never played before and things like that. Like, there are stories where people have been like struck by lightning and they are different after that and things like that. That's a whole different story, but I definitely feel like when we go through, as like a human species, something traumatic having to do with spinal or cerebral or anything like that, like blunt force trauma to the head and things like that, like if you are not, if it doesn't kill you, and as I hold the malachite, because like I feel like I need to hold it, right? If it doesn't kill you, you feel in a sense that kind of, you feel that energy of if it could have killed you and things like that. So that's what I'm saying. Like, I definitely feel that we as a species, if something tragic happens to us or something traumatic, like it doesn't even have to be tragic, it could just be something traumatic, it like jolts us awake and we see reality different and things like that. It's just something that I think about, having gone through, something a little traumatic, near death experience type thing, like we all have gone through some form of trauma that keeps us, in a sense, blinded. And then once we like truly see, because like I'm trying to say to you, like I didn't really fully see what was going on with what happened to me years later. Like it was like maybe 4 years later that I was like, I looked up the drug that they gave me, propofol or whatever, and things like that to keep me sedated, right? Like that's not a very good drug. It hallucinates you and shit like that. So, what I'm saying? Like, it also kills you and things like that, or it can kill you. Anything can kill you, but anything that is medically can definitely kill you. You know what I'm saying? So try to stay away from certain things. You know what I'm saying? But definitely, like, I definitely do feel that, if you've been through something traumatic, like I said, it doesn't have to be spinal, cerebral, or, nervous system wise. It could just be something that is psychological. I definitely feel like whatever goes on with us, we're able to like see it, whatever it is traumatic that goes on, we're able to see perception differently. We're able to look at reality a little different and things like that from what were taught. You know what I'm saying? Because from society and things like that, you're taught something that is like false reality. Like it's not real what we're taught and what we see. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not real. That's a false perception of reality. Like that's a false. It's false. So, you kind of have to like learn yourself what it is that is really there and things like that. And I feel like when going through some kind of trauma, whether it be, you know, like I said, whatever, cerebral, spinal, nervous system, it feels as though like when we go through something like that as a species, human species, we like change and we're able to see things differently and our perspective to things are different and things like that. I'm gonna pick up the thing that fell. It was my citrine, so maybe citrine is also very important at this moment. I got that for somebody, another reader said something about citrine. So maybe citrine is very important to you specifically. Maybe you need to try to inquire some citrine. But yeah, so just like having near-death experiences, I feel like, or any kind of form of trauma, I feel like can awaken us in the sense of like we, start to see reality and our perception changes and things like that. I definitely feel that we as a society think things a little bit different than we did in the beginning. I think like we've gone through some things that make us think a little bit different, but I do honestly feel like we need to, like as a whole collective, go in and shadow work. That means like looking in through the things that you want to hide from even yourself. Like you're just like, oh, that was something from the past that I don't like to, revisit. No, like you might need to revisit it and, put it to rest so you can move forward and you can like leave that behind and, create a new, because you cannot continue with like life stagnated and with old shit. Like you have to let that shit go and shit like that, right? But like I just really wanted to talk about near death experiences and things like that because I specifically have not spoken to like another person about that. So I felt like, recording a video and maybe uploading it, y'all could let me know your experiences if you've ever had any type of trauma. Like it doesn't have to be that you were on the brink of death or anything like that. It's just like any kind of trauma I feel like triggers us in a sense that we like awaken or we like look at life, differently. And our perspective of reality changes when we go through something like that. I definitely feel, right? This is going a little bit long, but I just wanted to, talk and things like that. I definitely feel that we, as a society go through things that we maybe feel like we shouldn't talk about and we should keep it in and things like that. And that's not good. You gotta let that shit out. You gotta talk about that shit, whatever it is, right? Whatever it is, you gotta let that out of you. You can't keep that boggled in. It's just not good for you. So I just wanted to talk about that specifically. Like I said, if you have any, well, my experience, I don't really want to get too much deep into it because it's personal, things like that. But like I said, I definitely feel like my perspective of reality changed when I went through what I went through. Like I said, it was not quick. It happened within years because I started to research about what, it meant and things like that and what, you know, like the drug and things like that. You know what I'm saying? Like I researched all about that after the fact because initially I just wanted to, hide that away and that's not good. Like shadow work is something that's really important that we should all be doing. It's not anything negative. It's looking at things that you would rather not look at. Is really what it is. It's looking at things that you would rather not look at and, fixing those things, whatever it is, trauma that you've been through or whatever it is. But like I said, having a near death experience, I feel like truly, allows you to see life at a different perspective. And, this was just like a video that I just wanted to make talking about that, what I'm saying? And it's very interesting to talk about things like that and people's perspective and things like that. Like I said, I see shit differently. Not that, since that happened to me, it took a little bit of time, about 4 years, that and then the last year is when I fully like transformed. Like that's when I changed physically. In the years before that, it was like just like gathering a lot of information, just like learning a bunch of stuff and things like that. And then I changed physically. Like it was like butterfly in the chrysalis kind of thing. Very interesting, right? So it's cool to like, talk about stuff like that. I don't really talk about stuff like that because I ain't really got no friends and things like that, but it's nice to talk about it and upload the video, things like that. I hope y'all found it interesting. Maybe if you have any, of your own personal stories that you would like to, talk about with me, that would be cool, right? And I upload this to like try to get it to people who maybe, you know, go through certain things and they don't have anyone to talk to. I'm saying? Like I said, YouTube has helped me with certain things. Like I just type things in that I'm curious about and watch videos, random videos of people. So like maybe this will reach somebody that has some kind of, question about that. Like I said, having a near-death experience or anything traumatic really changes your perspective on life and you start to see things differently. I don't care what it was. Like I said, like it could be any kind of traumatic thing or something that just jolts you, right? It just like jolts you awake and makes you think and see things a little bit differently. And you start to see, I feel like you start to see like you can definitely tell people who are not like conscious and awake because they're like robotic and they're like on autopilot and they don't really have any like feeling or emotion. You try to ask them how they're doing or you ask them like how they are and they don't even know how to respond to that. So those are the kind of people who are still asleep in my, opinion. And those people, I'm not saying that they need something terrible to happen to them, but I'm just saying that like, you know, something needs to change in their perception of reality for them to see people as humans instead of just like robotic fucking machines. You know what I'm saying? Like we're not robotic machines. Like maybe you maybe act like that because you are on autopilot and shit like that, but not everybody is like that. And I feel like when you have some kind of traumatic experience, like I said, regardless what it is, if it's psychological, physical, external, internal, whatever it is, you like start to see life at a different perspective, and you start to see. I feel not you don't. It's not like you're looking at the veil. You see beyond the veil, and you see through the veil, and you can see. Like a lot of people think that if they have gone through some kind of spiritual awakening or something like that, that they can see through the matrix. They can see like, some people think that we live in a simulation and we live in a grid and things like that. And these people that go through these awakenings and they can see clearly, they can see like the numbers and the lines and the shit in the grid. You know what I'm saying? Like they can clearly see through the matrix and they can change things like that. So it's very interesting to, like think about things like that. I fucking love talking about shit like this. It would be cool if y'all put your, you know, experiences and things like that in the comments, just whatever, just like connect with me and we can talk about our experiences because it's super interesting. And I also want to remind you to look up or to get some malachite and indigo abro because these fucking things are amazing. Indigo abro, mystic merlinite is super cool. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an amazing time. Okay. Thank you for watching. Love you.